Hey there, YouTube. Welcome on back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And in this video, I'm going to get into where I'm going to be picking up with my Morkborg. And I have to create a village. When I started my adventure out, it was just in the background. It was, how do you put this? Just in the background scenery, if you will. And there wasn't a whole lot of details with it. Like so many RPG games today, it seems like a lot of villages and stuff like that suffer. Very vague descriptions, not a whole lot of resources. They're kind of just the backdrop for the story. Now, for some pre-written adventures and stuff like that, it makes sense because the characters more than likely are never going to return to this area, so it doesn't matter. It's just a starting point for the story, and it served its purpose. But if you're like me and you're a solitaire RPG gamer, and you really do like building your worlds out, you like a lot of detail into what goes into your worlds, and actually have time to sit down, expand, create, and be able to come back and enjoy that at a later time like I do, well, then you're gonna have to flesh them worlds out a little bit better, so to speak. And there's a couple of resources that I use to do that, and I would like to show you how I do it, how I construct a village from start to finish, and some of the things that I use to be able to do that. Now, one of them that I have used for a long time, I've had this around for a while, and I really do love it. The problem is it's no longer in print, so getting your hands on it might prove to be a little difficult unless somebody's willing to give up their copy, and probably at a pretty steep price. And that is the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition. And this is a Dungeon Master's Guide rule supplement, which is called Creative Campaigning. What I love about this book, the whole book itself is an excellent book. Let me just get that out of the way. I don't care which edition you are currently playing in, you'll find just an entire huge wealth worth of information in this book. It also gives you ideas too to really sit and think about how you're campaigning and how to utilize a lot of maybe those chances that you get in your game scenarios that you often overlook. One of the emphasis I love on this, which we see now more in modern tabletop gaming than we did in the past, is utilizing your abilities. Your abilities are there. They're more than just rolling some dice, writing down a number, and deriving your attribute bonuses from it. They can actually be used for a lot more. It also goes into the mindset of different eras of history from which you can pull on, whether it be the Renaissance era, the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, so on and so forth. It gets you thinking. It really was put out there for the Dungeon Master, well, what they call homebrew today, but I just refer to as adventures because that was it. The Dungeon Master would create the worlds unless he was using a pre-published campaign box setting or he was using a published module. You played in the DM's world, and this really helped as a tool for him to do that. But the particular part I'm talking about with this book is the fact that it goes into the randomized encounters in which you will encounter inside of settlements. It gives you 100 different ideas, but here's the thing. It's not like where you're just going to be rolling and you come across the paladin, you come across the cleric, you come across the none of that. There's no emphasis actually on character classes. These are all individuals that you would meet in a village, a town, or a large kingdom setting, to where you're going to run into noblemen, you may run into scribes, you could run into a sage, you may even run into a grocer, you could run into an artist or an armorer, or what about a boatman or a blacksmith? The cool thing is too, is they also give you a randomized race generator to go with it. So you're not just, um, you're not limited to just human races. There's more races out there. So the chances of you actually running into a gnome baker, well, that's a good possibility. And it brings unique flavors, I shall say, to your gaming for the fact that you're adding in these other interesting little tidbits and morsels to the gaming experience. And for a solitaire gamer, this is a very good thing. Why? Because we have a more daunting task on our plate than the most even average gamer that goes to a game store and sits down into a group. For the fact that they sit down, all that work is done for them, their DM is going to lay everything out, they just have to make a decision of what their character's going to do and wait for their cue as to when to roll their dice and when battle will be resolved or the spell or so on and so forth. Solitaire gamers, we don't have that. So we have to plan out our sessions. We have to actually create our worlds. We have a lot of prep that goes into this for the fact that we have to do the game master or dungeon master's job, and then later on go back through and be able to enjoy the fruits of our rewards, if you will. And that's enjoying the game session itself and seeing how everything plays out and sitting back with a grin on our face, planning to do it all over again. So this is one of the many resources I pull on for my town encounters. Now, it's always good when you set up a village and or a town, and I've mentioned this before in many other videos. You can go through the daunting task of occupying every single structure within that settlement and knowing every NPC where they are and what they do. That is one way you can do it, and it's neither a wrong or a right way. It's just a very long process that may or may not fit into your future game scenarios, just depending on how the story takes you and what resources you may need. So typically what I like to do is I like to take about 25, maybe 50% of the settlement, fill it with the initial NPCs and the areas to which are going to be of importance, or what's the other word I'm looking for? Areas of, we could call it importance, but if they're not important, what if they're just areas of curiosity, we'll say, and occupy those, leaving the rest empty. Why do I say that? Well, for a really good reason. The reason why I say this is, let's say 2-3 game sessions down the road, perhaps your adventurers discover a rare artifact, but you have to have it appraised before you can learn what its benefits are and who can actually equip it to wield the power it's utilizing, if in fact it's a magical artifact, or what is it worth? How much money can they get from that? By leaving the settlement halfway empty, you can then go in there and fill that with an NPC of your choosing. For the fact, what if there's a trader and the local trader is also doubles as a rare artifact collector and an appraiser, and it just so happens it's in that village that you go back to for your resources. There's so many things that go into a village that many people, I think, overlook in tabletop gaming. One of the many things is it's your safe haven. This is your safe haven to return. This is where you're going to get your healing. This is where your characters are going to be able to rest, get out of the dangerous world around them, recuperate, hear some rumors, perhaps buy maps, stock up on magical supplies, so on and so forth, before they go back out into the world adventuring again. Which is why I say leave that settlement about 50% empty. utilize what you need over time. And the nice thing is, then you don't have to worry about tapping this settlement out to where everything's filled, nothing you're looking for is there. So now you have to travel the map even further in hopes that you're going to find another settlement that might have an NPC you're looking for to be able to help you out. Unless you enjoy gaming that way, and that's more of an exploration type of style of gaming, and there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, that may actually be very interesting. It would kind of remind me of that old game that used to be out on PC. Now I'm going way back, called Myst, where the game really had no point. There was no combat. You solved a few puzzles, but really the whole object behind the game was just discovering and exploring vast different landscapes and parts of this world, and where your character was stuck wandering around aimlessly. I guess you see my point. So my first go-to for NPCs that I personally utilize and like is the AD&D creative campaigning. Now, another resource I pull on, and I talk about this game system a lot because it is a good game system unto itself. Its resources are excellent for the solitaire player because it does offer you a lot. That's Forbidden Lands, and if you are familiar with Forbidden Lands, then you're going to most likely be familiar with the Game Master's Guide. Within the Game Master's Guide, there is an entire section of village building, and when you build the village, this helps answer a lot of questions that you may struggle with. And if you just entirely do not know, it'll start from the beginning and help you build something from the ground up quite quickly. It poses questions such as this: what type of adventure site do you want? Utilizing the D6, you could possibly have a village, a dungeon, or a castle. The size of the village, and then once again, utilizing your D6, it's going to randomize the amount of the population. So it could be as small as an outpost, which would be 5 to 20 people, a hamlet, which could house 20 to 100 people, or a village that could be 100 to 400 people. Now, age of the village. This right here is where it is extremely, I'm going to say, detailed straight to this game system. And this can be utilized in a different way if you want to and create your own randomized table for it. But it's going to ask you the age of the village. Now, within this game system, the Borderlands, there's two significant parts of the history into which it refers to. And that is the time before the Blood Mist and the time after the Blood Mist. And it's after the Blood Mist is where your characters currently come in. It's way more than that. I mean, I'm being extremely vague and really only condensing it for this video, but yes, it's very detailed towards this particular gaming system for that. So if you wanted to answer that question as to how old is the village, how long has it been there, you could always come up with a randomized table if you wanted to for that. Okay, the ruler of the village. This is unique. This gives you a D66 table and kind of gives you an idea of what you're going to be dealing with, which is really cool. And this is for the ruler of the village. So let's just real quick, let's roll a D66 and see what we come up with. Roll my 2D6, come up with a 16. So my first keyword is going to be cruel. Well, cruel never goes right. Let's see what the next one is. 33. A cruel druid. Well, that could be interesting, and that could go different ways. Kind of a bit confusing why you would have a druid in a village. But that's the unique thing about tabletop RPGing, is because it's going to force your hand to really utilize your imagination and be able to make them connections between those two ideas and bring them to light. Okay, so the next table that this book goes into that I really do enjoy is the problem of the village. You would not think about this way, and you would probably, unless it was presented to you, not even conceptualize this as being a really good idea for your village setting. But it is, and it actually helps bring the village to life. Now, there are several problems. It's on a D66 table here. And just to give you a couple ideas of what the problem with the village and the struggles that they could be going through, could be there's a power struggle. So two competing, we'll say political parties within the village are competing to be the ruler, the dominant one, which could divide the village and, of course, make for a very, it could be very interesting, story-driven. The possibilities for the adventure you could have into the village could be endless with all the skullduggery, the political backstabbing, and everything else that could go on. So another one, which I thought was interesting, was a sinkhole. A sinkhole could appear in the middle of the village, and it could be, devouring everything, and the villagers are scared, looking for reasons, and who knows, your arrival could either be blamed for this, and you could be the one to blame for the sinkhole, or perhaps through desperately seeking people with knowledge far beyond their social norms to be able to help them solve this. And it goes into some other ones here. Undead, widespread drunkenness, bandits terrorizing monsters, slave trade, haunted by ghouls or ghosts. I like that one too. I particularly like it because I really do like undead. I just love gaming with undead. For whatever reason, it's just, there's something fun about smashing skeletons, and the whole thought of an evil lich being the diabolical, how do we put this, brains behind the operation, fueling the whole thing, or perhaps a wicked wight that just comes up out of the ground, swelling up where its remains were buried, and looking to terrorize, seek, and drain the lives of the living around them. I don't know. I like that type of gaming. So, their claim to fame. This is the next random table you're going to run into while building your village. This one is unique too, and I have found this really does, I have to admit, this system that they put in here really does set this apart from a lot of other RPG games. As a matter of fact, I can't even really tell you another RPG game out there that I think does it as well, and really has gotten me to look at how I construct my settlements and how much better they can actually be than this system right here. And that is the claim to fame. And it gives you a D66 table. And this could be anything from excellent wine. People could travel all over the countryside to come here for their wine festival, to a horrible massacre that happened that's never been solved, and people still want answers as to what happened. All the way to, there could hidden riches. There could be hidden riches somewhere within this village, and perhaps people go here trying to look for clues to find it. Strange disappearances, worshiping demons, suspicion of strangers, hospitality. Just it gives you a lot of keyword ideas to be able to put to that village and give you, a better, how do I put this? it really brings your settlements to life for the fact that it takes on a life of its own, which means once your characters leave that settlement and go out into the world and you're exploring dungeons and you're crossing the wilds and you're off on whatever story plot you're on, the village still is moving on. It has its own life, it has its own story direction, it has all of that. And you know that in the back of your mind, which just makes it all the more interesting. Then the next table we go into is the Village Oddity. The Village Oddity is just unique. It gives you a lot of ideas on a D66 table to think about, from odd building materials to being built on steep hills, an old tower in the middle. I mean, here are just a few, built on marshland, old burial sites, wandering cattle, allied with monsters. I mean, there's a whole lot of resources to pull from here. Now, the next one we go into is the Village Institutions. And this, I have to admit, it does not give you a large table. I wish there was a larger randomized table for this, but hey, they did what they could do, and I think it's pretty good with what they have, and that is randomly generating your different locations within inside the settlement. So you could have inns, mills, smiths, foresters, trading posts, temples, militias, taverns, and stables. Like I said, it's limited, but if you're used to playing solitaire games and being a solitaire gamer, then you're used to reading in between the lines, taking a bit of information, and knowing how to make the most of what you can get from that. Okay, the Village Inn. The Village Inn is another D66 table, and I'll show you how this works. There's 3 different columns in this book, utilizing a D66 to come up with just a very unique inn. So let's start. Our first one will be a 42, and that's going to be a mediocre bard. So a decent bard. He's not a great bard, but he's not the worst bard. He can carry a tune and strum some chords in time, so he's all right. So it has a mediocre bard. And now we're on to a 16 with grilled rodent. So they have a mediocre bar. They serve some form of grilled rodent as their specialty dish. And their special guest that seems to appear every now and then, 53, is an annoying jester. Wow, that place really sounds like a dive. A mediocre bard, their main plate is some kind of roasted rodent, and they have an annoying jester that's their special guest that makes special appearances from time to time just to annoy the customers. Okay. Okay, the name of the inn. Now this is once again, if you're familiar with a multi-use randomized table and what that means, it's going to give you several columns on a percentile spectrum, and you roll your dice and you go down your first column, you look that up, you roll your dice again, and you go down to the second column, and you repeat that to come up with whatever it is. Like, for example, the Village Inn. We just rolled the D66 3 times, and we came up with the mediocre bard that likes to serve the inn's specialty plate is some kind of roasted rodent, and they got an annoying jester that comes in as a special guest. So the last thing is how to name the inn. What are we going to name the inn? And I have to admit, this is one of my weak points when it comes to solitaire gaming. I've never been good at giving inns names. You know what I mean? Like, for example, the Prancing Pony, right? Excuse me, I can't talk today. The Prancing Pony, right? We all hear that. We automatically think of Bree. We think of the Lord of the Rings. that will be forever etched into our minds. Or a place that I grew up in, a couple towns over, they actually had a real bar. The name was the Bloated Goat. The Bloated Goat. And I was told that the owner of the place wrote a fantasy story, and within the fantasy story, the name of the tavern was the Bloated Goat. So he decided to name his bar the Bloated Goat. But once again, just one of those names that are just etched into our minds. And the name itself, whether it's ridiculous or fanciful or, you know, whatever the name is, for some reason it just clicks in your mind, and you really, really can pinpoint this place down mentally, if you will. You can, like, yeah, like right now, I hear the word the Bloated Goat, I automatically think of that place. I can already see the front of it. I can see everything. Now, mind you, I wasn't of drinking age even when I learned this name. I was a kid, but still to this day, it has that effect on me. This is what I'm trying to convey to you out there. A name can be an extremely important thing, whether it be gaming or real life. So let's come up with this name with the mediocre bar that their main dish is roasted rodent with the annoying jester as a special guest. So utilizing the D66 on their table, let's see what this comes up with. So my first roll is an 11. The first word is the third. The third. The second one will be a 43, and let's see what that gets us to. The third bear. The third bear in. Okay, the third bear. Makes you wonder where the first two went, huh? Okay. But anyways, that is essentially how simple within the Forbidden Lands Game Master book. It's small, very condensed set of randomized tables, but there's a lot to get from it. And I have a lot of fun actually building my villages from this. As a matter of fact, it's one of my frontline things that I go to, that I always pull on that resource to use it. And I have found it really helps. It helps for the fact that it is so simple, keywords, that it does not bog you down. As a matter of fact, it helps the creative process go by quicker, rather than sitting and trying to go, okay, well, who should I put here? Let me see. Well, I already got a blacksmith there. Who was over there? Oh, yeah. There was an armorer over there. Yeah, that's right. You understand what I'm saying. If you've ever sat down and developed a settlement before, you are very excited at first. You get into it. Once you get into the task of making it, and you get everything laid out and designed, and it seems like it's all coming together, then you start adding the NPCs and who's who and where they are, and then it just seems like everything starts to slow down. And the reason why it's slowing down is because you are not playing an RPG game. You're in creation mode, but you're trying to, I don't want to say I'm going to say me from my perspective. I'm trying to think of every single possible outcome at that moment, and how to appropriately occupy every square inch of this place with as many resources as I need for my characters at any given time. And it doesn't always work, which is why I love the resources that I use. Last but not least, the third book that it will pull on, and you can get this, it's still in publication right now, just as with Forbidden Lands, and that is Steve Chabot's Town Tables. This is an excellent book. There is a great amount of information in this. This will help you really build town squares. It'll help you go really into the depth that you want to take it to, just depending on the level of gaming you want to do. If you're more so of, you want to focus more on old school dungeon exploration, where the village is just going to be this small outpost that's going to be near there, where you're going to go and get your healing, get your supplies, and then just right back down to the dungeon. Well, town tables may not be for you, but if you're like me and you like the fact that I'm sprawling across this open area of land and I come across this new settlement, what is there? I have found town tables on my table quite often, and has always helped really flesh out all those questions that I had, and have made some really cool settlements with it. So what is in the town tables? So the town tables obviously goes into the introduction, explains to you how to use a book full of randomized tables, as if you need to be explained to that. But if you're new to RPG gaming, I understand there is a learning curve to it, and there's a lot to take in, and it can seem daunting at times. So if you're new to solo tabletop RPG gaming, the introduction is good for you to read. So it goes into town governments, the town names, the sizes, the governmental organizations, town characters, defenses, watches, town sectors. Then it will go into martial government sectors, harbor sectors, merchant sectors, holy sectors, university sectors, slums even. Government employees, crimes and punishment, crimes, punishment, laws, prisons, guilds, roads and conditions, sewer quest. So it even gives you ideas for quests as well, if you need to have one quickly on the fly. Sewer hazards, shop and notable places, structures, landmarks, town features, town squares, detailed landmark features, homes, even building materials. If you notice, this is the second book that I have that really emphasizes on that. And at first, when you look at it, you may think that it's kind of a waste of time, but it's really not. One of the first, I'm going to say the second game I played after I got Forbidden Lands and really got into it, was, I remember my characters came upon a village that was made out of black onyx, and as they were approaching it, the way that the sun was reflecting off of this village, everything took on this this appearance of shimmering, almost a shimmering mirage spectacle of these structures that seem to be floating on the surface of the earth. So it really does take your gaming to another level. It really does. I have to admit that. Okay, so continuing on what's within the book: special features, flaws, home details and oddities, shop, service, businesses, professionals, common business, a comprehensive list of businesses. I mean, there's a lot in this book. Shop names, bakeries, blacksmiths, breweries, general stores, herbalists, inn, jewelers, magic shops, tattoo parlors, if your characters need a tattoo, tavern, shop descriptions, taverns, blacksmith shops, inns, general stores, jewelers, alchemist, herbalist, common shop items, arcana supplies, blacksmith, clothing shops and tailors, I'm getting tongue-tied. Cloth colors, fletchers. So if you don't know what a fletcher is, it's somebody that specializes in creating arrows and stuff like that. Anyways, general store, trading post, grocery, produce shops, jewelry shops, leatherworker shops, temples, cleric shops, black market goods. There you go. You always need a good thieves guild. Street stalls, inns, tavern food menus, and then it gives you just an entire wealth of menus of tavern food, tavern drinks. It even goes in, got a section for people, NPC backstories. So if you're lacking that and you need help with NPC backstories, it has a randomized table for that. NPC features, personalities, and quirks, eyes, eye color, eyebrows, skin color, skin appearance, general facial structures, nose, mouth. I mean, this goes further into detail of gaming than I typically even go. So when it comes to describing the features and all that, I really, for me, my games, I guess they're a little bit more not so descriptive there, where if you're one of them people that love it, well, this is a great resource for you, because it goes into facial hair color, hands, body type, positive character traits, negative character traits, missing pieces. So if you want your NPCs to be missing an eye or an appendage or something, you know, tattoos, scars and burns, disabilities and quirks, family secrets, gangs, gang names, street performers, pocket filler, town stories, town adventure hooks, town encounters. There we go. Gives you another list of encounters, which is why I love this book so much. Rumors and gossip, town secrets, tavern talk, tavern events, tavern patrons, atmosphere, seasons, weather, air quality, climate, terrain, natural disasters, random town events, festivals, festival games and contests, street foods. And then we get into the end note of all that and about the author. And so I know that was quite a bit, wasn't it? I know. So this is what I utilize, and I will show you how I make my villages in the next video, because I talked your ear off enough here already, don't you think? I mean, I just explained the 3 books, a little bit what I use out of them, how I use them. I figured maybe another video might be better. We can just jump straight into building the village. All right, my friends, those are my thoughts and not yours. If you enjoyed that, let me know. Drop me a comment, a like. If you just stumbled upon my channel, don't forget to click the subscribe, followed by the bell icon. When I do upload videos, you will get a notification, which I suspect you're going to see a lot more videos here pretty soon. All right, my friends, this is Artichoke Dip, signing off.